In this video, I want to talk about CSS styles and how we can take all of the styles in a page and move it to an external CSS styles page and then link all of our other pages to it. So what we've been doing right now is called embedded styles. I have a page here and I write all of the CSS styles that design the page directly on that page. But here's a scenario of what if this was my original design that I had for my cookie website, and then I've reworked it and I said, well, actually I like this color scheme better and I want to have my images with a curved radius and any other changes I want to make. Now I want to quickly apply these changes, my CSS style changes, to all of the other pages I have on my website. So one thing I could do is simply go in and copy and paste all of the code from the page that now has the styles I like. So I'm over here back in Dreamweaver. I could copy all of the styles from the opening style tag to the closing style tag. I could copy that and I could put it onto all of my other pages. But more commonly what's used is the external style sheet. So I'm going to talk about a method that you can use to create an external style sheet. And if you go to File, New, there is an option. I'm here under Blank CSS. I can create from scratch a new CSS style sheet. And what this would have here is just CSS. It wouldn't have any HTML. And so I could start writing my rules saying if you're a heading 1, have this font and be this size. If you are an image, have the border and make the border have a curved radius, and so on and so forth. And then I could just go and link that. But if you're just starting out making web pages, it's a little bit hard to visualize how all of these things would look. So what I recommend doing is set up a page and set it up to have the look that you want. So you set all the styles and all the fonts and everything that you want. And then you're going to take all of those styles and I'm going to copy them. So I'm not taking the tags that say styles. I'm just taking the styles inside. So notice I'm not taking this and I'm not taking the closing style tag. I'm taking all of those. I'm going to copy those. And that's what I'm going to paste inside of a new CSS. I'm going to file a new CSS document. I'm going to create it, and now I'm going to paste all of those here. So this is what a CSS file looks like. It just starting right up here at the top, it goes directly into all of these CSS styles. So now I need to save it so that it is showing up inside of my root folder. So I'll do File, Save As, and I'll call it something like recipe, because it maybe would just be on the pages that will have recipes. Maybe I wouldn't want to apply this same style to my home page. And this is going to be a CSS, so make sure that it has that extension .css and say save. And now it shows up here in my in my site, and it looks a little bit different. It says .css. So now if I go back over here, I'm going to use the panels and then I'll show you how to do this directly in the code view. And I'm going to open up another one of my pages, actually, first from File. So I'll open up Chip. So Chip has this other color scheme, and I want it to now have the color scheme that I've saved onto my recipe page. I'm going to go over to the CSS Designer page, and up here in Sources where it says Style, I'm going to click on the plus sign. And I'm going to choose Add Existing CSS File, and I'm going to browse for it and choose Recipe. And click OK. And I'm going to choose the Add as Link option and click OK. And now it took on all of those, the attributes that are in my CSS style sheet for Recipe. So you can see how quick it is to go and simply add styles to a single page. Let's go back. Well, actually, let's look at the code here and see what was added in case you want to just do it directly in the code view. All I'm doing is adding a link, href equals, and then the name of my style sheet, and then relative rel equals style sheet type equals text CSS. So if you wanted to start typing that in directly into the code view, you can do it there as well. Let's go through the process of creating a new HTML page. So I'll create a new one and I'll just call this test. I open this up and obviously if I look at it, it's just completely blank. It doesn't have anything. If I go back over to the CSS Designer and click on, I'm in Sources, click on the plus, I can choose Add Existing CSS Style, Browse, and I'll choose that one for recipe, and click OK. And it's now added right here the link to that. So when I click over to the design, it has already at least the background color. So now when I start adding the things that have designs on them, such as a heading 1 or a list item, they're going to take on the attributes that were set up in this recipe. So one last thing to just notice on Chip, when I went and I added it, so I've linking this to an external style sheet, I don't need to have all of these styles here now. So now I could go and delete these because I don't really want to have that kind of conflict. I don't want to have two sets here. And let's save it. Look over here in the design view, and it still has everything that was assigned from this external style sheet. And let me just go through here. So test. And if I do the last one, I think so we have chip, and we have drop. So I could do the same thing. I could go to the drop page and go over to CSS Designer, not Diner, add existing CSS file, browse, choose recipe, click OK, and now it takes on those attributes. And I can get rid of all of the styles I had on my page here, because the external style sheet is overriding them. So that I don't have any conflicts, I'm going to delete that. So now each one of these pages, for the style, instead of having the styles on the page, it just has a link. So I'm on my drop page, it has a link to that external style sheet. I'll go over here to my chip page, look at the code, and the same thing, it has a link to it. And here's my test page, same thing. So with my test page, all I need to do is start adding the elements into my body, and it's going to take on all of the attributes that I set up here. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to use this for your projects, but it's something that you may want to be able to know about, and definitely I would recommend first setting up your page, kind of deciding how do you want your images to look, how do you want your H2s and your H1s to look, how do you want your links to look, and then take all of those rules and copy them all and paste them by going into a new CSS file, by going to File, New CSS, and just simply paste them in and then save it so that it shows up in your root folder. Very important is to make sure that it is saved within your site here. Okay, so in the next one I'm going to talk about another advanced step, which is creating templates on your web pages.